Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Justin Brook from adskills.com, and I've been getting some questions lately about what is this MindStudio tool that I keep talking about, and where does it fit with like N8N and Make and Zapier and all that stuff? And there's a bazillion different tools out there, so I don't blame you for being confused. But I wanted to show you MindStudio today, and I want to compare them to Make and N8N because you're definitely hearing about those tools a lot more. And so I just want to show you why I'm talking about MindStudio instead of those tools, and then you can make your own choice of which one you like better. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and I'll show you a few of the things that I'm working on here. So, all right, so this is inside MindStudio, but let's back up a little bit. So MindStudio is not like a chat GPT or a perplexity. It's not an LLM. It's not like an AI that you would just be talking to, asking questions to, kind of the new way of Googling. It's more like a Zapier, or Make or N8N where you're building automations, but specifically, MindStudio is built to be an AI agent builder, not just an automation builder, but an AI agent builder. And you'll see why some of their features are different, and I would say better because of them. Now, a lot of people are using N8N, and that's awesome. I think it's a very powerful tool. I have zero bad things to say about them. However, you can even look at their own headline and see that they're for technical teams. Like, I don't know about you, but when I watch videos about N8N and it sounds and looks amazing, and then I go in there and I'm just like, what? It just isn't intuitive to me. It looks amazing, but it's kind of more of a technical tool, and they themselves say that on their own website. And a great comparison is in computers. You've got like Linux, you've got Windows or Microsoft, you've got Apple or Mac OS, right? And so N8N would be like the Linux, which you could argue is the better operating system because there's more granular controls, and I'm not techie enough to even understand exactly why it's better, but I just know that like a lot of the internet tends to run on Linux machines, and then we humans use Microsoft and Windows or Microsoft and Mac OS because that's more like we just want it to go on when we press on, right? Like we just want the window to move when we move the window. We don't want to know all the granular elements of it, and that is exactly what MindStudio is. It's more like the Apple. So if you're an Apple user and you like the ease of using your Apple laptop or your iPhone, your tablet, it just works when you use it, then you'll probably love MindStudio. If you're the kind of person who loves to defragment your hard drives and you love downloading the latest drivers and customizing your PC and stuff like that, you're probably an N8N user and you probably will hate everything I'm going to talk about here today. But if you're like me and you just want it to go on when you press on, you just want it to work, you don't want to have to think about it, I would say that you're probably a MindStudio agent. It is designed to build and deploy AI agents, that is things, bots that will do specific jobs. And you can have them easy where they just do 2 steps or 1 step, and you can have them elaborate where they're doing 80, 90 steps. So all the elaborate things that you've seen in the YouTube videos about N8N and Make and all that stuff, you can do all of that with MindStudio. You can see this little chart here about like broad automation versus AI automation and whether it's hard to use or easy to use. And so MindStudio really kind of is up there in the top corner of AI automation and easy to implement. So let's talk a little bit about pricing, and then also like where does Make fall into all of this? I think Make and Zapier falls into the middle, so it's like if you want it to be really easy to use and intuitive, you probably are on the MindStudio side. If you're super nerdy and technical, you're probably on the N8N side. In between there, you have varying degrees, and so you might be a Make or a Zapier user. I do think that they get a little bit more pricey, and we can talk about pricing here in just a minute. But you can see again, like this Make and N8N are for building automations, which is cool. They're not necessarily built specifically for creating AI agents, and we'll see that in the feature set. So let's talk a little bit about pricing. We'll go to MindStudio first. I've already set them to monthly. You can jump in for free. I love that, and you can just start testing. You can draft and test unlimited custom agents, and you get 1,000 runs per month. And that's important to understand. 1,000 runs instead of just operations, which we'll see here in a little bit. The plan that most of you will probably want to be on is this $15 a month plan. Really, like the good juicy plan is this $100 a month, because this allows you to embed AI agents and you have API access. So that means like you could have your website, somebody could be interacting with your website, entering a form or something like that. And then on submission, it accesses your MindStudio agent via API, does all this really cool stuff in the back end, and then displays something to the user. This is like the powerful version of MindStudio, and specifically the embedding of AI agents, because that's how I plan as I'm making various tools. I've got a really cool little Google ad writer. I've got a headline analyzer. I've got these really cool tools for my advertising audience, and I'm just going to embed them where I put our course videos. Like, so the same areas that I can embed videos is where I'm going to be able to embed AI agents, useful AI agents, and you can charge for them as well. So it's I really like that in their pricing. But let's take a look at all the pricing, right? So Make, very affordable. They do have a free program as well, but this is 1,000 operations. Okay, so each step in your run, right, in your whole automation is an operation, and so if you have, I don't know, let's just use easy numbers for division. If you have 10 steps in your automation, 1,000 operation, if you have 10 steps, one run or 100 runs is going to use up your 1,000 operations. And so it's just, think a little bit differently about that. And then really where you're going to want to be at is, probably this $18 a month plan. This is going to give you all the different bells and whistles that you're going to want, access to the Make API, all of that stuff. But still, price is 10,000 ops per month. And so that, again, if you have a 10 op workflow or automation, every time you run it, that's 10. So 100 runs is going to be 1,000. So this means you get 1,000 runs, which adds up to about 30 or 40 runs per day, which is probably enough for most of you, at least in getting started. That's probably more than enough for most of you. But as you start to use this, more and more, you're going to start wanting, 100 runs per day, 200 runs per day. It depends on how much traffic you're going to have and as you scale up. But you can change this. You can see, all right, if we go to, let's say, something I think is probably a little bit more realistic would be like 40,000 ops per month. And that's going to allow you to really scale. So it's going to be a little bit more at like $62 a month, but you can absolutely start at the 10,000 ops per month. And then if we take a look at N8N, they don't have a free plan. They have a free trial, so you can get up in there and try it for free, but it's a free trial, not a free level where you can kind of just play with it at will until you're comfortable. This one's $24 a month, but this is the super limited version. You're really going to want at least the $60 per month one, where you're going to get all the fancy features and all that stuff. So $60 per month, $20 per month, and then on MindStudio, $15 per month. Most of you are going to be comfortable right in here. If you want to start selling your AI agents, that's when you would probably want to bump up to business. But you can use AI agents in your business all day long on this $15 per month plan. And remember, it's 10,000 runs per month on here. So a little bit different. All right. With that said, now that we've talked about pricing and differences, let's jump into MindStudio and show you what I'm building, how it works. So first off, when you log in, this is the dashboard everybody gets access to. New in here is this MindStudio University. I would start there. Tremendously valuable information. A lot of it is also on YouTube. But you get in here, you start an account for free, jump in here to the MindStudio University, and there's tons of training in here that's really, really high quality training made by their developers so you can really get started. And then you don't have to know anything about building AI agents to get started with MindStudio. You don't even have to make an AI agent because they already have hundreds of them for you down here. So if you want, an AI agent that fact checks for you, if you want one, let's see, there's this one, a YouTube video to an executive summary. If you want to do YouTube videos, turning any YouTube video into a LinkedIn post for you. If you want to mass reply to YouTube comments, like there's a bunch of different agents in here that you can use just to get started. And then any single one of these, this is really cool. All right, this is what I believe is why this is like the easiest entry to building AI agents is one, you can just use these that are already built, but then also you can go into any of these, like let's go into this YouTube LinkedIn post one. I can click into there and then I can hit make a copy. And then that's going to go into my own account, this little build area over here, where I can then tweak it and customize it and build on it, and so you can see how they're building AI agents, and then you can add one little step or just tweak the prompt a little bit and customize them for yourself. So it's like the best like training wheels entry into the world of AI agents, where you don't have to like know how to build an AI agent to get started. You could just jump in here, use their already built AI agents. Then when you're comfortable, make a copy of one, tweak it a little bit, and then you can just start building as you go. And so I've got several of them here that I've built. Let me see, I've got one in draft, I think, right now that I've been working on. All right, so now I'm in my built agents here. I've got several of them in here. The one that I was most recently working on was this ad skills newsletter agent. So if I click into that, I can show you kind of how it works. Now, I usually start on paper. I really like this pad. It's made by a company called Rhodia, Rhodia. Let me see if you can, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see that, but I like this pad because it's like a whiteboard, and it just sits here to the left of my desk, and it's just got grids on there, and so I can just get my ideas down. And so like I built this automation first on paper. That way I could kind of understand like, okay, I need this step, and then it needs to do this step, and it needs to do this step, and it needs to do this step. And I just add little initials there for what type of blocks that I'm going to be using. And so to get started, you normally just start out when you create a new agent with a start and an end block. All right. And then in between there, you can add new blocks. Now, most of you are probably going to want to generate text that goes over to ChatGPT and does some, implements a prompt for you with generate text. You can generate image, you can display content on the screen, you can generate an asset, you can scrape a URL if you wanted to scrape YouTube or Reddit, or there's a ton of things in here. If I click view all blocks, there's dozens and dozens of these different blocks, and they do all kinds of different things, from a chat session to jumping in between one workflow and the next workflow, fetching scraping Instagram profiles, let's see, fetch YouTube comments, captions, search YouTube trends, search Twitter posts. I mean, it'll do all kinds of things. Send SMS text messages, find people's email addresses, send an email, summarize text, improve writing, align to brand, merge text. I mean, there's a million different things that this thing will do. And then you can also connect them to these other automation tools out there if you want even more functionality. And so you can add a ton of different blocks in here, but I really just use a lot of just the same block. I basically use generate text and display content, because that's really all I need to do all day long, is just generate content. All right, so if I zoom out a little bit, you can see the whole thing here. And so what it's doing is it's grabbing, so this is my newsletter writer. And what it's going to do is it's going to write my newsletter for me so that I no longer have to write it, and I can schedule this to run every day. And so when I come into work, my newsletter is already written for me exactly as I want it, how I want it structured, how I want it written with the right links in there. Everything is done for me so that I can just copy and then send it out. And I could even connect this via API to other tools and have it send out automated. But I kind of like to be in the middle there and see it, put my own final touches on it, and then publish it. So first thing it's going to do, our newsletter, we always have a featured link, then we have an intro, then we have a question of the day, then we have the main article, then we have the prompt of the day in our newsletter. And so this first one, if I click into here, you can see the prompt that I've written. And so this prompt is the instructions. And then what it's going to go do, it's going to go to a model and it's going to then do that. And so you can choose which model you want it to use. Do you want to use the latest Claude 4? You can do that. You want it to use DeepSeek? You can do that. You want it to use ChatGPT? It'll do that. There's a bunch of different models in here. Some of them are cheaper than others. Some of them are more expensive than others. But I mean, you've got O3, ChatGPT O3 in here. You've got ChatGPT 4.1 in here. You got Mistral, Llama, everything you can think of. Gemini 2.5 Flash, which a lot of people are using because it has a super large context and it's very cheap to use. It's got all the really cool stuff, and they add new ones in here all the time. Like as soon as they're coming out, they're adding them in here. I mostly just use GPT-4o, DeepSeek, and Claude 4, and so I just starred them so they're always there. So what it's going to do is this is the instructions. Since I want this, I like to think of each block as like an employee, right? And so one team member has this instruction, and then the model is kind of the brain. What brain do I want this team member to use? And so because this one has to reason, has to think, I'm using DeepSeek, which is a reasoning model. If it's just a writing task, then I'll use Claude 4 because that's a writing model to use. So this one, it has to choose from our 5 different affiliate links and choose which one we're going to post as our featured link of the day. And then we go into the intro writer. This one, I said you're a world-class media buyer, you have decades of experience in digital advertising. For this project, you're going to choose one of the main frustrations of modern 2025 digital advertisers. Then you're going to come up with how using the different tools that we talk about. So for me, in my newsletter, I talk to marketers, media buyers, digital advertisers, and we talk about how AI is changing the game. How you can use AI to write more ads, to write better copy, to create your landing pages, do market research, all those different things. So I'm telling it, choose a frustration in my market, then choose a tool that solves that frustration. And then I want you to write an intro. Once you've decided on the digital advertising frustration and the AI tool that can solve it, I want you to write an engaging, teasing intro to an email newsletter. And I literally tell it the first sentence should be like this, the second sentence should be like that, the third sentence should be like this. So it's writing how I want it to write. It's not just coming up with its own ideas. And that's what makes it from like AI slop, just some vanilla AI generated newsletter versus something that I'm actually curating and making. All right, so we write the intro, then it goes to the question of the day, and we just have polls. And so I just ask it to choose which one of our polls are we going to run for that day. Again, I'm using a DeepSeek model here because it has to think. And then we go into the article writer. This is the main body of our newsletter. So I tell it, you are a world-class copywriter. You have decades of experience writing email newsletters. The target audience is this. Based on this intro, right? So what I'm doing is each of these blocks, you can choose whether it displays to the user, so it's just going to show it to me, or do I want it to save what it's done as a variable? So I save it as a variable, and then I call it the variable. Sorry, the intro is called intro, the poll is called the poll, the article is called the article, the prompt of the day is called the prompt. I mean, very simple stuff. But what that allows me to do is it allows me to then pull that variable into the next prompt. And so when we're writing the article, I say, based on the intro that was already written, and then I feed it the intro. And it's super easy, right? If I click out of here, you don't have to remember them. I just double type this little curly bracket, and it shows me all the different variables that I have. And it's like, oh, okay, I need the intro one in there. All right, so now it's showing them the intro that was already written. I want you to assess the topic, the frustrations, the tool. Then your goal is to write this many words in this style and my voice, and I tell it my voice over here in the system prompt was where you can give it like global instructions. And so, you're a world-class email marketing expert. You have decades of experience writing and publishing email newsletters. You write headlines Or when you write headlines, you write them in the style of BuzzFeed. When asked to write in the style of Justin Brook, here's a description of my writing style. Do not use more than 2 emojis in an email to emphasize, make sure to humanize the writing, all of that stuff. So it grabs the intro, then goes and writes the whole thing, and then I even tell it exactly how to have the right call to action at the end. I tell it, I want you to, your article should end with a highly compelling call to action that connects the topic of the article with why the reader should join my product, my service, Ad Skills Weekly live training call to get more help, end the article with join the calls here. That's how I kind of always sign off. All right, then we go into the last one. Oh, well, the last step here. Now it is just grabbing the poll that we need. I'm sorry, this one is writing our prompt of the day. Instead of me having to search for prompts or write my own prompts, I just tell it to write the prompt. The easy way of doing that is you're a world-class digital advertising expert. You're sitting down with a world-class prompt engineer. I want the digital advertiser to give an example problem you face daily in your digital advertising. That's copywriting, ad creative, data analysis, landing page creation. And then the prompt engineer considers which tool is the best tool for the job while providing an expertly written prompt that the digital advertiser can use. So you imagine a digital advertiser is sitting with a prompt engineer. The digital advertiser is explaining their problems. The prompt engineer says, oh, okay, well, based on that problem, you should use this tool with this prompt and it'll solve that problem. And so it's just doing that for me. I give it a couple of examples. Finally, give me the title of the prompt along with the prompt itself, condensed into one chunky paragraph, followed by the tool, and the prompt should be used in yada yada. Save the variable prompt. This is a reasoning task, so it's going to use my favorite reasoning model. Finally, we go to the newsletter publisher, right? So we've got all these parts, right? And so I say your job is to be the newsletter editor. You will, I got a misspelling here. You will receive all the parts of the newsletter from our team. Then I want you to put them together in an understandable and cohesive manner. Our newsletter always starts with a featured link, then an intro, a question of the day, followed by the main article and ending with a prompt of the day. Here are the newsletter parts, right? And then I'm just using those variables that we saved everything to, and I'm pulling all those parts here into this final employee, the publisher employee. Now put today's email newsletter together based on what your team has given you as the parts of the newsletter, make sure it's written in my voice, all that. And then finally, what we want to do is I save that as first draft, and then we do this is a display content model. Here you see all these are generate text. So that means it's a prompt going over to an AI tool to generate text for me. And then this final one is just a display content. And so what I'm saying is the variable, I had this, it grabbed everything together, saved it as a variable. That variable name is first underscore draft, and then a display content module to finish off my automation because I need to copy paste it and send it in. So what I'll do is I just drop in that variable, and now what it's going to do is it's going to display that to me. Here's what that looks like. So then, when I'm done, I hit publish, and then every time I run this, it will execute all those steps. So all I have to do is click into it. I don't have to write anything. I don't have to start anything. I just click click run on my agent, and it writes me another newsletter. And then here's what the output ends up looking like. And so they have a history, so you can see everything your agents are doing, and that helps you tweak the prompts. And I'm still working on this one. It's not perfect yet, but it's great. It's a great start. And so we see here, it came up with a subject line. Want to know how I sneak past AI detectors like a ninja. Hey there. And that's just pulling because, the featured link is Agility Writer, which is a tool that I really like, and it helps you bypass AI detectors. And so it started off the newsletter with the featured link of that, and then it went into the intro and question of the day. So the intro, ever feel like you're drowning in ad creative burnout? That soul-crushing moment when you've got to, and this is the other thing, I told it to write like me, and even to have some misspellings like gonna, probably, gotta, So you've got to pump out 50 ad variants by Friday, but your brain's drier than month-old toast. And just when you finally nail one angle, the algorithm yawns and asks what else you got. It's going a little bit too far on the slang and the southern drawl and the jokes and all that stuff. So I got to tweak the prompts a little bit. But that's the new job, right? It's like instead of me having to write my newsletter, all I have to do is tweak the prompt once a week as I'm getting feedback from my newsletter subscribers. As I get feedback, I go in and I change a prompt here and there. Before you know it, it's automated and it's amazing every single day as it's going out. And it'll write in your voice just as well as it'll write in mine. It's a really, really cool tool. So that is MindStudio and why I use it. Some of the use cases that I'm using with it. I'm using it to write my Google ad headlines. I'm using it to write my newsletter. I'm using it to predict which ad is more likely to win before I have to actually launch them. There's a million different things that you can get this thing to do. I suggest going to MindStudio, joining for free, jump into MindStudio University and watch a couple of these videos, and then go over here to agents and just start pulling a couple of these agents that you like into your own account and playing around with them and seeing how they go. And then you can start building your own agents. All right. That's why I like to use MindStudio. Hopefully that was helpful and you got some ideas on what you can do. I'll see you later. I'm Justin Brook from adskills.com.